This is Mark Mueller. Welcome to Truth and Justice League. This is the Vault series. These are stories of old cases and old trials that I did in my career. And I'm here with Miss Denise Castro, my co-host and my co-worker. And I'm going to be talking about a case I did in Orange, Texas, way back in the early 80s, in my first couple of years of being a lawyer. So this case involved a guy that was pulled over by the cop. He had his wife and a couple of friends in the car with him, and he was on like a serious probation when he was driving the car. So it was a DUI charge, and because he was on probation, it was more serious. And because of the allegations, it was more serious because the cop said he was endangering people. He was driving 98 miles an hour. He was weaving in all of this traffic. And then when he finally pulled him over, he said he was so drunk that he basically fell out of the car, took a swing at the cop, and fell down. And so it doesn't sound good.
No, it does not.
And the cop was a state trooper, and he was the trooper of the year. So he was Mr. Law and Order, honored trooper of the year, had the most arrests and convictions of anybody down in that area. He was the man. This is a case where they didn't offer a very good plea bargain, and so we were going to trial in this case. And this was not your run-of-the-mill DUI case where somebody gets pulled over for wobbling and they blow a breathalyzer or something like that. This was not a breathalyzer. They didn't do a breathalyzer. So, but they said he was drunk, he was weaving, smelled like alcohol, and he was on probation and all this other stuff. So it was an interesting case. And this is the first time I had a DUI trial, and I can't remember if I've ever done another one. But I did this with my law partner, Dennis Powell, who was, hats off to Dennis, like one of the smartest lawyers I've ever met. So this is not all me. This Dennis was always there, and he was doing a great job with whatever he had, whether it was opening statement, closing argument, or cross-examination. He was great. So I don't remember how much of that Dennis was in, but he was there and he was helping a lot. These criminal trials, they don't have depositions or anything like that. You just go in and you do your trial, and the state puts on their evidence, and you put on cross-examine, and you put on your evidence, and the jury decides. That's what it is. So
I feel like that's a hard case, but in my experience of getting speeding tickets and getting stuff in the past, I feel like courts tend to side with cops. It's almost like their word is law.
There's good sides and bad sides on this. Cops don't have an easy job. They have to deal with a lot of stuff going on. And what I've found, in a lot of cases that end up going to trial, is that they kind of overdo the charges, or they kind of overdo the facts. Like, yeah, this guy, was doing some of these things, but the fact pattern that this guy was giving was just like so incredible that I just didn't believe it. I thought, this is too good. This is just too much. And so, and the cop had a big ego.
I mean, yeah, he's trooper of the year.
He's trooper of the year, and he's won all these cases and everything else. So they put him on the witness stand, and this is probably going to be their only witness. Put the cop on the witness stand, and I saw this, I saw that, I saw this, I saw this, and that would be basically their whole case. And so I started cross-examining this guy, and I was a young guy. I was in my 20s. I don't really know what I'm doing. I've read some stuff about these kind of cases, but I don't really have any experience in this. So I have to kind of make it up as I'm going along. But I just was like, I always try to figure out what really happened, and then go from there and try to work that into the story and create reasonable doubt, because all we have to do is create reasonable doubt.
Of course. And
reasonable doubt, if we get reasonable doubt, then they're supposed to vote not guilty. So this cop, he just, when he got done testifying, it was like my guy was dead in the water. I mean, he just like said all the things here, right? And so I cross-examined him, and I was like, about his record, how important his record was to him, and how important what a big guy he was, and I kind of played into his ego.
Oh.
And then I asked him, "Are you sure about all these things you said?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." I said, "You remember all of these things exactly like how you testified?" "Oh, absolutely." Blah blah blah. And so I was taking him on cross-examination, and I got him to just keep saying all these different things about, and it to me was exaggerated. The guy's going 98 miles an hour, and he's recording. He weaved here, he weaved there. He's like, everything's like it was on tape or something, but it wasn't on tape. They didn't have dash cams then. But it was a blow by blow, moment by moment description of something that you're doing. Well, you're chasing somebody at 98 miles an hour. And I'm going, this is just too much. And then, and then when he pulls over at the end, do we really believe he swung at a cop and fell down? I think if he swung at a cop and fell down, the cop would have beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And probably arrested him for felony assault on top of it. But it was all so much. And I went, it's too much. It's too much.
Didn't we recently learn if you just touch a cop, you can get up to
Well,
99
that's the other
years
yeah.
in
Yes,
prison? Okay.
Exactly. So there's that one. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that. So, my guy was, this was a tough trial because the guy was on probation as well, right? So there was that. And so I got him to just brag on himself and puff it up, and kept going and going and going till it was just like, this guy had to have a photographic memory, have instincts like a hawk, a cat, and just everything was too much. And so I go, do you think you maybe exaggerated a little bit on this one? Like that. No, I'm always tell the truth kind of story, right? Like I would never do that, that kind of thing.
How dare you
How
even
dare
suggest
you
it, Mr. Mueller?
that I'm less than a straight up guy. And so, I thought I had made a pretty good point that this was just too much, just a little too much. There was a little bit of BS in the room on this one. That was the whole case. I don't even remember if we put on the guy's wife or someone to testify. We may have. About the what they remembered from it, and it was obviously different than what the cops testified about. But a funny little story was, as I was going, well, how am I going to argue this to the jury? And so we took a break, and we were coming back into the courtroom, and I was trying to hype myself up, and I'm kind of wild in those days, so I was like kind of hyping myself up by walking down the hallway. And I said, we got this. God's talking to me now. It's coming in. The winning argument's coming in, right? I was just saying that to myself in the hallway, right? And then years later, I found out that one of the prosecutors and a couple other people in the hallway had heard me. And they thought, wow, Mark is a super religious guy. And we didn't know that. And so I found out later that I didn't get invited to parties.
What?
Because they thought I was a straight-laced Bible thumper,
if they only
kind of guy.
knew.
So, I've not criticizing anybody, but it was kind of funny because
Yeah,
it
that
took
is funny.
years later I found out that was the rumor that they had, was I was doing a biblical closing argument. And then the closing argument was basically, I called it my black and white fever. My point was that, yeah, the guy probably did speed, and he probably did try to get away, and he probably freaked out because he was on probation. And then when he saw the lights behind him, he, had what I call black and white fever. And I basically was telling the jury, has anybody ever had that happen to them, where you're driving along and all of a sudden some lights come on behind you and you kind of like start going, well, what did I do? And, this kind of thing. And, you're temporarily not all together because you're.
I feel that all the time when I'm
Exactly.
driving. There's a cop behind me, I get nervous. Are they running the plates? Are they what are they doing?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Are they gonna pull me over?
So the argument in this case was it was too good to be true. My guy had black and white fever. He was guilty of speeding, but he wasn't drunk. And he couldn't have been drunk and done all the driving tricks that they described that he did.
Yeah, so drunk that he's falling out of the car and tripping and
but driving 98 miles an
And
hour
not
and
crashing
weaving
into
in and out of
people.
cars and not crashing into anything. So that was that was the whole thing. Was this is too good to be true? They embellished the story, and he couldn't possibly have been that drunk and done all the amazing driving at high speeds that they described.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of the argument. Argued our case, went outside. I don't know. The jury was out maybe an hour or so, 2 hours. Came back, not guilty.
Yay!
Yay! Yeah. I don't know what happened to the people after that, but that was my first and I think my only DUI trial in Orange, Texas, and I was like 1981 or 82 or 83, somewhere in there, with Dennis Powell.
Nice.
So that's the end of that story, Ms. Castro.
I liked it. Thank you.
You're welcome.